keep a challenge on going up in these spots. Stay a little longer than the contract says and try to accomplish a little more. And we've been able to make great gains down in Florida A&M. You know, on those historically black colleges, we find the greatest level of pressure. The intelligence community is strong. We're down in Florida A&M just last month in Tallahassee, where the president of the school, Humphreys, is the top black ever to come through military intelligence. And Humphreys prides himself all in Florida A&M's history book about why he has all the ROTCs on the campus and a role in the military and the development of the black race. And as being a member of a secret society, I raised the question to the students. If he's a member of a society that has sworn never to name the names of people in control, how can he be in charge of education? Does the oath he took to his society prohibit him from fulfilling his role as the leader of education at that school? And he was killed by the challenge. The challenge put a crust in his thinking, and the whole school got disrupted. Professors went out, called me FBI agents. Coakley must be the government, because who can talk against white people and not get killed? It's the omni theory of white power, that whites are so strong and so awesome that they just had a right to do everything anytime they want to because they're white, and we believe that shit. And so you get caught out. The thing I called Brother Marcus a while back, Anton Chapin of the LaRoches, the Roaches. And I be putting pressure on people who let them hang around. I do not like them. We cannot harbor them elements up in the black community. And when they be hanging around, that Anton Chapin, who's the best researcher they got, up in Philadelphia, well, you know, by the way, he's at the International House, he's talking about the Wharton School of Business. All of a sudden out of his mouth is, oh, by the way, you know, Steve Coakley's an FBI agent. So I'm strong in Philly. Audience laid back a minute, say, oh, but sister stood up, say, well, excuse me a second, this brother Coakley, he's been here lecturing. What is it about this brother? This is our brother. What is this? Well, you know, he had that big rally the weekend before the Million Man March, all trying to cause trouble in Washington, D.C. Said, well, you know, that was for us too. But, you know, the brother was a part of the rally. That wasn't quite his rally, but if you want to accuse him of that, fine. He said, well, you know, the other thing and the worst thing about him is he's out here causing disunity in the black community, fabricating the existence of some organization called the Boule or something, and we've been out here checking it out, and it don't even exist. And he's out here fabricating it. Well, Philly just happened to be where it started in 1904. But show you how things work. A brother jumps up out the audience. He says, excuse me, I'm a brother of Steve Coakley's, and today for him as a gift, in fact, I have it here with me. He said, I went to the Commonwealth of the state of Pennsylvania and applied for and received a certified copy of the original charter that the Boule filed with the state of Pennsylvania to be an organization in the state, and he held it up, it's handwritten, 3 pages, turned it around to show the certification seal, which had been imprinted in it, and he said, and the organization does exist. And Anton Chapin had to pack up his shit and leave the room. But I was not there to fight him, but the fight was there to fight with him as he began to lay the seeds. Now, here's the point of this. Here's the point to all of that, where they go, as they go to run around to make that dialogue to try to neutralize the impact. If you have a better theory on the enemy, bring it forth. I'll drop my shit and get with yours. No, I mean, it's not a joke. This is serious business. We must come to some conclusions on some shit. And without ever coming to any conclusion on anything, everything goes. All kind of shit can go on. And so when any kind of thing can go on all the time without no base on it, how will we get base when we ain't all in the same group? That can happen. Values can be radiated. We have witnessed, especially in the last 2-3 years in our community, a heightened discussion about values. It does not mean that everyone has abided by the values that they have espoused, but the role and purpose of values and principles in everybody's action on behalf of black people has at least been saturated across the community and exemplified by the Million Man March. That principles came out, discussion about change in character. And that's a revolutionary moment, that principle can be discussing. You saw him in Washington flipping around, repudiating, well, I wasn't here because Farrakhan is here, but I like the Million Man March. Well, That's the way it go. That's the way it go. And it was an interesting moment. And I need to tell you this, that since the Million Man March, those of us who are in the trench for African people have found that the hunky has fought harder now. You see, I always used to say you never want to let the enemy see the strength of what you have until it's too late for him to recover from you using it. Now, what happened at the Million Man March was the hunky peeped the fact that 2 million men would show up on a theme as dubious as atonement. What if the call had been revenge? No, I mean, just think about it. I've always tried to factor in what the impact of your acquittal. Oh, so you're right. What the impact of if you think about it, right before the Million Man March, brother was acquitted. What if he had been found guilty? What would the tension have been in the society? As symbolic of what all black men feel when it comes against a white person. And so all of those things led into that momentum. The importance of it being on a Monday and not a Saturday. That was a big argument we had right up here in this room. Right up in this room, we got changed and putting pressure and influence in spots that it got up off of Saturday, then it went to Columbus Day, got up off of Columbus Day and got on the 16th, where people were supposed to be someplace else. That was important. In D.C., it was really deep. There was the school in Alexandria, which is right outside of D.C. on the Virginia side. About a week before school, a week before the march, they announced that school was going to be closed on Monday the 16th, and the white parents got pissed. They came out and attacked, and the white dude said, well, we noticed that 41% of the drivers have already taken the day off, and we suspect, the dude said it right on TV, we suspect there are others who are not going to show, but do not have the courage to tell us until Sunday night. That was heavy. And they were announcing school was closed, and then the whites got mad and made the school superintendent demand that those drivers come back to work. They had a big meeting on a Sunday, and those drivers came in there and spoke for their desire to be at that Million Man March. And that's when in D.C. whites recognized that their blacks were not going to show up. And it was more important that they didn't show a day they were supposed to be someplace else than that they were there on a day they were off. Well, the hunky said, well, as long as the nigga come back on Monday, right, ain't no problem with me, right? Now the whites made a lot of money. They know that. And they know there's an underground economy out here, and they're trying to squeeze the juice off of it because they're attacking vendors all over this country. They're attacking street vendors like they're interlocking directorships of corporations. The SEC don't fight against corrupt businessmen. I mean, Borski, Milliken, they're on the street. They be on the street and they're heroes on the Milliken, financing a whole review or reform of education this weekend. A convicted felon. Got all the privileges. Yeah, throwing the money. Be throwing it all over at that Urban League too, I know, all the time. And that's another thing too, we're going to start making a register on the reciprocation of white money. A register. People just needs to be a spot. If there was a book at The Good Life, every time you saw an article or an announcement or a press release of a white foundation, white corporation, cigarette company, or whatever, giving away the money, just clip it out and tape it in the book and let the book just keep getting bigger. They know, say, hey, there's a book, man, on people who've been getting the money at The Good Life. Now, you underestimate what go up on The Good Life, but you can see what has happened in the process of knowing that there's movement going on, how the word has gone out, and the people have come in. And the attacks have come. And sister, I heard about the armed attack on The Good Life. And they're shifting their strategies these days, because when they got a glimpse of the Million Man March, they recognized they did not have as much control of the African community as they thought they did. They got a glimpse of that. And that's a dangerous thing to see, because he's got time now to regroup. And he's deep down into the shit we doing, trying to battle our ass at times when he used to just let us go. He's fighting every single stop, every spot we go to, they're there to wrestle us down, because they're a little bit more on edge now than they have been in the past. And because of that, they've gone deeper into, I mean, in Atlanta, they got it down to people down there going to be wearing microchips by next month for these damn Olympics. And you see today they put a call out on them free men, put out a nationwide alert that they've intercepted some communications from these hunkies that they're going to blow up the fuel dumps, and there's some of that shit out here in Long Beach and stuff. They was going to blow up fuel pumps. They was going to attack IRS offices, and the U.S. government put out a full terrorism alert on other whites. And that's important. And we always said that it was important to magnify when whites cannot get along with other whites. That was very important to us, to magnify their inability to be successful with each other. And I told you all last time we were here, and the movies keep going, that they were always setting it up in the movies to have brother man rescue the white man from a fight with the other white men. And that was important for them to psychologically make us think that that's what our role is in reality, is to save them from each other. And there was Brother Man and The Enemy Within, saving them in that movie. And Denzel, he saves them a lot in his movie. He saves them pretty much in all of his flicks. No, and that's not to put him down, but that's the flick they offering him. Hey, he saves Julia Roberts in one movie. He saves Virtuosity. He saves Gene Hackman in another movie, saving the Navy ship. He saved Civil War and Glory, and he gave him an Academy Award for that, because he really pulled one off, that one. He really pulled one off. And that's not to demean him, but that's what they're offering. Hey, we got video cameras. We can shoot some movies out here. Y'all don't want to be in no movie like that. So those things are going on. A couple of things I wanted to show you just to kind of give you a preview of where some of the things we're looking at. Tell you what some of the things are in this box. With the help of Brother Jamal, he's going to help me make some, I brought some original videotapes that I don't have made up yet. Brother Jamal is going to help me make some of these tapes for you so that the Time Warner tape and the Base Theory on Evil that we did down at Florida A&M and some other things will be available for you before I leave. And the information has deep things in it for us to share with other people. The affirmations in there that will help us confirm with other people our base assumptions about what we need. And I spent a little time talking about the Council on Foreign Relations 1996. You'll see that tape in the box, and hopefully I'll have the video for you. I do have the audio. And the purpose of the Council on Foreign Relations 96 is that all this African talk, I'm up here looking at these whites, they talking about Africa like a dog, sitting up in these Council on Foreign Relations meetings, talking about Africa like a dog, and it ain't no Africans messing with them. And just because they appeared to be out there all alone, we had to stick someone on them and to put a press on them. I knew I was coming up to New York in February, and you go up to the Slave Theater, I mean, you sell hundreds of things. People come from all those boroughs to pick up things to share. And boy, Baba, some of them Africans would love to see you out there, Baba. They ask about you. Would the brother ever come and see us? That's the interesting thing. It scared a lot of people. It would scare a lot of people that some of those little people out there that really want to see you, they really do. And they ask about you, and it's much to talk about. I think Brother and I, when Brother called me at the hotel, he said, Brother, you're not going to believe Brother O.J. is over here tonight. And I said, man, you're just trying to trick me to hurry up, make me come over there, Jamal. That shit is not going to work. So I said, you tell Brother Marcus that. I put Brother Marcus on the phone, and I went on doing what I was doing. I'm up here making the beats in the 66696. I said, if I don't go in there with this tape, they're not going to get the lesson. I ain't got time to do all that talking that's on that tape. So he told Jamal, he told Marcus. So Marcus, he put the phone down. I said, now Marcus, wasn't he bullshitting? He said, I don't know, man. He said, I don't know. I said, well, Marcus, I got to finish what I'm doing, man. I got to do this. I said, but that Jamal, he's trying to trick us. So I said, let's call Sister Ife at the Good Life and ask her. I didn't know Brother Wahid was back there. If I had known Brother Wahid was back there, I'd ask him anything. He'd tell me the truth. So I didn't know Brother Wahid was back there. And then Brother Wahid is an interesting brother in my life, too, because when the minister used to make those trips, and in fact, the trips that he made through Saudi Arabia, and when he come down through Mexico and had the vision about the march, I was speaking. I was doing the Wednesday night lecture series. Brother Wahid ran the lecture series. Wahid ran the lecture series in the Final Call Administration Building. Even before there was Mosque Mariam, and Brother Wahid was assigned to me. He was my godfather. And boy, we'd be wrestling every week over them donations and stuff. But we gave some powerful lectures. And the night of the Libyan bombing, we were there, we spoke. The AIDS and Jewish doctors statement came out of that series of lectures. The compulsory education is mandatory strangulation. We talked about the counterintelligence and the art of insurgency. Will there be any niggers in the year 2000? Talked about that. And those were these Wednesday lecture series going on during the time that the minister was gone. And Brother Wahid was the guy that seated. I was there to do what I was supposed to do, to share the knowledge that I had with those who were asking for it. And them tapes got me in big trouble. But in fact, it wasn't trouble at all. It was pushing me on to the spots where I was supposed to go to. I never would have got to the bottom of some of these people if they hadn't bit me on my ass once or twice. And I said, who is that bit me, Brother Wahid? So I had to go chase after him. And even Brother Khaled was there then. When I lost my first job for Anti-Columbus Day, Brother Khaled got Brother James, who was on the gurney, and the men to get together to pay my rent. So I have another month of being a brother without having to go back in there and take one of them jobs and submit what I was trying to do for you to work, to then do it after work when this is really a full-time thing. And these brothers were significant. These are many years ago. Many of those stories need to be told, and all of the Savior's Days and how we spent those Savior's Days talking about counterintelligence. And I used to teach about the Jewish Council on Urban Affairs. I had that early warning system, and how the ADL was spying on the black community. This is back in '79. This is 12 years before the San Francisco police caught them. We caught them on the streets of Chicago. And I got attacked for that. I was getting attacked for things that African people wasn't understanding. And I told everybody about the United Way. They did catch the United Way. Even the whites had to set them down eventually. But we did get some of them counterinsurgents off our back in these major cities, as I saw that formula where for social development money, they were watching African people. And the projects never worked, and people thought that was failure, when in fact the people were kept in control, which in fact was what the program was about. And we talked about rumor control and human relation commissions, and you all know we had that discussion when I was here last, talking with myself and Milana Karinga. Now I asked Brother Carl, I'm going to give y'all a clue, I asked Brother Carl this morning if he would call Mr. Karinga and see if he would be willing to do a show with me before I left town, because I enjoyed the show that we did together last time. I really did. And I was in Atlanta a couple of weeks ago, and I went to Pasquale's restaurant, sit down and eat. I was looking for Asa Hilliard, you know, the Boulay man. I was looking for Asa, and a group of black men was sitting at the table behind me. And I went to speak to the sister who was the waitress, who was a student at Spelman, and she said, Brother Coakley, I'm glad to see you back, and so forth. And I said, thank you, sister. And the men heard my voice, and they said, man, you sound like that Brother Coakley. I said, yeah, okay, I'm Brother Coakley. And they said, man, we sat here yesterday and listened to that tape with you and Karinga, man. Oh, we was rolling all over the floor. You would be surprised how information travels. All up in New York, the Coakley-Karinga tape, all over New York. I mean, people are responding and acting to it. Not that it's anything bad, but sometimes people need to have these discussions, and people need to hear these interactions, and people can make judgments about people's temperament and their reliability and their honesty in these interactions. There's nothing wrong with an interaction. And so that's why I asked for the chance to be on with him again, so that we could have an interaction. And I look forward to that. And I'll be intrigued to see if it happens. And I believe if asked that he would do it, because I told you we talked after that show. And he said, even though, you know, we had that point where he said, Brother Coakley, I didn't know you was this good of a brother. Then we had that little encounter. He said, see that, Coakley? I knew you was that other brother. That's why people don't invite you no place. And then at the end, he still said, I would still invite you over to my place to speak. And even though you was a rat and dog and a cat, I still would work with you, And we talked after the show, and we had a little argument, and then we talked, and we had a little argument, and we talked. But we were engaging, and as long as that went on, that was intriguing. So we haven't talked since then. He was supposed to be with us the weekend before the Million Man March at the program, but Sharpton and Milana Karinga and those others who were in both programs, those people who were speaking on the day of the march, quickly all got out of our program. Right. But the importance of our program is this: anytime you have a group engaging in and around whites, and whites have nothing to fear, there must always be somewhere in and around the flock another group to tell the whites that we'll kick your ass in a minute if we have to. And so that's why all of that different energy was all around the same weekend, because we all don't need to be walking around peacefully. Right. All options must be available for us, even if in the public it don't look like we connected. Sometimes you'll never really know. We might be really connected. Really? Right. And you know, I thought it was interesting, this thing that just went down where Strobe Talbot, who's Deputy Secretary of State, had to go to Congress and admit to the fact that they were cutting these deals with the Iranians to get these arms to these Muslims in Bosnia. Because a couple of weeks ago when Mr. Farrakhan was there, they was trying to whip him up like a fire hydrant for working with the Iranians. But lo and behold, a week later, we see everybody's kissing and shit. That everybody got relationships, but everybody don't play those relationships out in the public. And so the public is left with the shit of watching people who sometimes give false leads. And that's where you have to be well in tune to be able to pick up on when in fact you're watching something and it's not really something, it's decoy. And so in our interactions with each other, you have to watch it carefully. I got some tapes to play for you, including one the week before the Million Man March with myself and Mr. Farrakhan on the radio in Chicago. It's an interesting little interaction you'd be interested in hearing. As you know, that Jesse Jackson tape I used to play all over about his role and relationship at being at the Council on Foreign Relations meeting. Well, in the CFR 1996, so we used the annual report of 95, we found some very powerful information about why he was as restrictive as he was about some of the things they do. And you will find, as we've had much discussion about the Council, you won't find as deep a discussion as you'll find on those tapes. And again, if you're into the African thing, if you're into these things that you radiate that you are, then believe me, the only thing I can do for you is to deliver you the whites who don't mean you well. That's my job, is to deliver them onto you, the ones who they've worked against the most. And we will be getting deeper. Now, let me do this before time expires. You know, part of our program is this. What's this? Bogart. The Bogart. Let me see the Bogart. Now, see, some of y'all I ain't seen for a while. This is the principle. This is the principle of the operation. Whenever anybody will, what's the MO? That's right. Right. The MO is the Bogarts, and that's the fact that we're right is not enough. That fact that we must have power and be right is what will make us succeed. So we do not only accept our responsibility of being correct, but we must be powerful. We must be articulate in communicating effectively how correct we are. And to work with those who are not yet fit to stand where we're standing so that they can influence others where they're standing to be correct. And the revolution is where you're standing. I always try to tell people, don't be trying to go over there and free up Mandela, and we still in South Central. Show you right, sister. Show you right. That's right. All right. There you go. All right. Now, everybody's allowed one outburst, sister. Sister.
I love you. I'm God. I love you.
I appreciate you, sister. All right, because you had your one, and the brother, and the theme too is that sometimes when we must do things, we cover our eyes and make it consistent with everyone, and do not deviate because it's a sister, or do not deviate because it's my friend, or do not deviate because it's a buddy. The principle is we must do what we must do, and I got to do what I got to do. All right? All right. Show you right. So. We want to, at least before I leave, share a few things with you about some stuff I found I'm really real excited about.
I love it.
I appreciate you, sister. And I need to dim the lights just a little bit for the next couple of minutes as I try to show something that I found. And to the strength of sister, I don't know where I was going at that moment, but I'll never get back there, wherever that was. One of the things, that's good right there. One of the things we're going to talk about in the next couple of days I'm here is this article that appeared in the Washington Post November 5th, 1995, entitled From Satan to the Sphinx, The Masonic Mysteries of the DC Map. November 5th, 1995. It's a Sunday Washington Post front page story. And the point to this is this, is that during the Million Man March speech, Minister Farrakhan spoke for many hours. Whites tended to not pay attention to some of the things he said. He talked a little bit about Hiram Abiff and the Master Grip and the secret societies and the secret orders and the Masons and George Washington and the number 19 and the number 1555, and he said some things that whites tended to act like they didn't hear. But in fact, they did hear it very carefully. And they heard it well enough to even have responded to it. And I think while we're here, we need to share in some of this interaction. And so you need to look up this article if you can. Those of you who got those desktops, I know you can do it in a minute. And we'll be talking about this in the next couple of days, about a dialogue and something called the Goat of Mendes. Something I need to say, and I know one thing I went to say earlier that I didn't get to finish, was that there's this Satanism story going around here in LA. And one of the parts I heard say that the dude said, well, if you do these satanic killings, you are assured that you can get to go to hell. You hear something like that? Yeah. Where do they think they already at? Where do they think hell is? But this is something important that I've never paid attention to, is Satanism. I ain't never been into watching Satanism. But we start looking at this guy, Anton LaVey, and his role and relationship in Hollywood. And the stars who worked in and around Anton LaVey as he spread his Satanism. This guy, Roman Polanski, you remember a while back, Roman Polanski raped a 14-year-old girl. But you know, I've come to think now, even this much time later, that that may have been a satanic sexual relationship, because the girl he raped, Quincy Jones married, Natasha Kinski. But it was Kinski's father who was one of the main Satanists of Anton LaVey. Her father. Who is Roman Polanski married to? Sharon Tate. That went and ran through the whole murder act, was all around Sharon Tate, Roman Polanski, Kinski, and a whole series of people who are well respected in society. But that Satanism and the rituals of Satanism are strong into things we've looked at in the past. I done walked you through the boule, but now I can walk you through it to the point to say that I can see in its ritual Satanism, the honoring of evil. And I'll share it with you. You will form your own opinion. That's what my job is, to offer it up to you. It's your job to affirm it or reject it by going away and finding other information to collaborate it or come forth with even better information. And there's more of that going on than I perceive we have discussed in the past. Some of the way the blood was let in other places almost appear to match the way people do satanic things. And that, I don't know all about Satanism. But, yeah, dust will kill you. I whip all the white men, but I'll be afraid of some dust. I'm telling you, I know what to be really afraid of. Yeah. The dust didn't say, hey, that's Coakley. Dust say, eat. Okay. So we got to watch this Satanism thing a little closer. And that led me to watch some things that whites were doing that led me to believe that there was more involved in, they were more involved in the satanic side of things than we may have assumed in the past. And I'm not one to study Satanism, but I will share with you the best I can what I think we found. Now, for all the time we're going to talk about while I'm here, all the time we've been around, we've talked about the boule. We've talked about the boule. And I mentioned to you, to Carl this morning, that we got the new boule history book, the 1995 book, and we bogarted it. Ooh, that light is a little strong. What we got here, Baba? Oh, that's your mic. That's our tape. All right. All right. And this is, of course, the Black Male Society. This is volume 2 of the history book done by Hobart Jarrett, who's a professor emeritus at City Colleges of New York. But in this book, many of you all know that this is the logo of the Boule. And that logo of the Boule is a Grecian Sphinx. And we spent a lot of time trying to decodify what the hell that hand, and I don't know how well you're seeing this because the light looks so strong. What can we do? You see it all right? Okay. That is a picture of a white female, and the white female has the body of a lion, the wings of a bird, and it has its hand, its right paw, over the urn, and in the urn appears to be a circle within a circle. Now, one thing we would remember from our past discussions, that we've always talked about the secret society of Cecil Rhodes, and we know it was the society of the circle within a circle. And we know that those societies were known as the round table groups, and we know that it was Professor Quigley of Georgetown, and I'll have to do this two kind of ways. There's Quigley's name. He was a Princeton, Harvard, Georgetown professor. Again, he was Clinton's professor at Georgetown, and he wrote two very definitive books. Here again is the second one. First one, Tragedy and Hope, History of the World in Our Time. Very definitive books about the existence of a series of secret societies at which he labeled or called most profoundly, and I know it don't look like you can see, I can't see it that well, round table groups. Okay, we'll get this tightened down. All right, round table groups. That he talked about the existence of a group of people who, in essence, made up an invisible government, and that they were a society of people, and that their society was a circle within a circle, and that circle within a circle was very significant, and that it was centered around something called the round table. And that's what they called themselves. And we know that we were able to take the Boule Journal, and there's Charles Wesley. Boule, of course, it means advisors to the king. That Charles Wesley, who wrote the first history book of Sigma Pi Phi, and also wrote the history book of Alpha Phi Alpha, that it was in the eulogy to Wesley that we were able to establish that the word round table also meant something to the most prestigious and powerful black men in America, who in the eulogy to Wesley on one side and Alfred Lord Tennyson on the other gave reference both to the fair order of the table round and the round table lives. I'll spend more time going through the details of this with you in the days coming. I'm not trying to make a point of things that some of you who've been with me on many occasions have heard over and over again. I just want to re-emphasize the fact of where our connectors are, where we connect the black organization to the richest and most powerful of the white structures. And that within that context, our sources are sound. Quigley is a verifiable source. Clinton, in his last weekend before being elected, spoke about Quigley. Clinton said of Quigley, half the people at Georgetown thought he was a bit crazy, the other half thought he was a genius. Clinton said of Quigley, they were both right. But just the point that we can draw the connection, and that it was the history of Sigma Pi Phi that Charles Wesley wrote, that says that Henry Minton, who was the founder, wanted to establish an organization that was set up on the tenets of Skull and Bones at Yale. And we know that Yale University is in the city of New Haven, Connecticut. And that is very important in the keys of what has unfolded in our behalf about finding out who is responsible for trying to knock into the African connection. Now, Quigley, of course, eventually became known as the professor who knew too much, as Washington Post put him out in March of '95, just to verify the fact that Quigley was not well accepted by other whites. Now, thank you. Now, this Boule logo of the Grecian Sphinx, we went out and found every version of Grecian Sphinx we could find, to find similarity in the breast of a woman, the body of a lion, the wings of a bird. Manly Palmer Hall, whose place is right up there in the mountains here in L.A., he had in his chapter of the initiation of the pyramid, he had his version of the Grecian Sphinx with the breast of a woman, the body of a lion, the wings of a bird. And of course, right here in this room, Oshawa Kwesi translated that to be a lord of the landlords. And it talked about how the Grecian Sphinx was hooked to the legend of Oedipus. And of course, we know it was Oedipus who allegedly murdered his father and married his mother. Now, this sounds like a bunch of mumbo jumbo. What does these Grecian sphinxes have to do with what we're talking about in the black community? Well, here's another. This is Biederman, Dictionary of Symbols. Biederman shows a Grecian sphinx. We need to remember that it was right here in this room that we were able to establish that there's something uniquely different between the Grecian sphinx of the black boule and the Kemetic sphinxes that were used many years ago, which represented gods, versus the Grecian sphinxes, which Biederman apropos says that the female sphinx of Greek tradition has its origins in a fairy tale motif. This sphinx was often winged, always female, a demon lurking at the side of the road, challenging travelers to solve her riddle and devouring all those who could not. The purpose being that we've been able to establish that even in the definition of the word devil, it says like the Grecian Sphinx. And we'll talk about these things in the next couple of days. But we wanted to be able to say in the next couple of days, in fact, I'll start with the Grecian Sphinx tomorrow night. Monday night. We know that these Grecian sphinxes are similar to griffins and gargoyles, hooking into the legend of Oedipus. Something about these Kabbalahs got something to do with it, and that somewhere in those Grecian sphinxes they used the symbol of 9 squares. And of course we went to that Boule convention, and you all know we did. And there we found the 9 squares right on the Boule's logo. And I'm just kind of bringing you up on some things we've agreed to in the past, so that I can share with you where we can go from here. That's where we found. That's one of the copies of the Boule's logo. And right here where it says Sigma, something, Pi, something, Phi, we were able to establish that there are 9 squares here. Right here in this room, a sister came back after I shared this from the Boule convention. She said, Brother Coakley, those 9 squares are the 9 squares of Saturn, or the 9 chambers of the Kabbalah. And then we established that there are numbers inside of those 9 squares, and that each one of those numbers add up to the number 15. And that is significant because 15, and I was never one into numerology, but I've had to start learning a little bit about numbers, that the number 15 card of the tarot deck is the devil card. So why the men would draw upon the 9 squares, and why the 9 squares would add up to something that isn't good, I do not yet understand. But we will offer them this opportunity. One thing we clearly see again, that this circle within a circle is inside this urn. One thing we learned from Carol Quigley, said again that the secret society of Cecil Rhodes and Rothschild, who got together in the late 1800s, who are now the dominant factor in today's society, that amalgamation of secret society, that they are the circle within a circle. But could it be that these black men know of these men who are the circle within a circle, but that they not only know of them, but they feel they have some role or some responsibility in revealing them? No. Protecting them. Yes. But why? Yes. And the question is a good point, like Jamal said. Yes. Because if they are not good for African people, why would we protect them? So that would mean that a little debate or a discussion or some definitive opportunity to make a conclusion about who these whites are at the Council on Foreign Relations, or at the Trilateral Commission, or the Bilderberger Group, or the Rand Corporation, or the Brookings Institute, or the American Enterprise Institute, or the Hoover Institute, or many of these other things we don't even have time to get up in a lecture. If it is that these are good whites, then let those who love those whites come forth with the information to verify their goodness. But we will not accept on word up that they're good just on word. They ain't got no word left in our yard. Now, in the Boule history book, 1995, this is some heavy stuff, and it's hard for me to drop this on you out of the sky blue. I didn't come here tonight to do this. Time is limited. I only want to share with you some new leads that we've gotten. Those of you who know, this room was very significant. We read the first Boule article. Right here in this room, we read the first article about the existence of the Boule. In fact, I was giving a lecture on the Council on Foreign Relations in 1990, and it was on the front page of the LA Times, July 18th, 1990. And now I'm going to tell you the truth. Right out of this room, every African and African thinking community in this country knows of this Boule because we've taught them. Right up out of this room. Nowhere else. And it's not about us or that we're good. It's about the fact that we can communicate with each other without whites mass communicating us. That we found a way to talk to each other. We've shared this information, and in every city, you better believe the Africans are giving them hell. And so we've bottled up a key element of the white protective, these circles that they have protect themselves from pressure. What would happen if people began to focus on these tentacles of the enemy and spend more time agreeing that they're wrong? You will be in awe of who black will come out to save them. And that's why we call it Operation Golden Seal. We would suck the pus up out of what was ailing us, and just by putting it on the infected area, it will force infusion. Now, what is here? Boule, 1995 history book, part 2, something we never found. Founders of Sigma Pi Phi. The pen, which is what they wear, this example, is modeled after the Grecian Sphinx, the most famous of the Greek mythology being the Sphinx at Thebes. We know this, that the griffins guard the gold, the sphinxes guard the esoteric knowledge, and the eagles guard the entranceway to the 2 gates. I don't know what that means, but when you see me Monday night and I'm breaking through the code on the Grecian Sphinx, I'm saying we've walked up on the most powerful black organization in the history of Africans in this country. We have decodified what they spent 90 years keeping in semi-secret nature. We've not only stepped up to explain to our people who they are, but we have decoded the keyest elements of what makes them protect these rich whites. If we expose and make known the whites that they protect, just by the nature of being a Grecian Sphinx, they will be compelled to destroy themselves, for what they protect has now become known. They become useless. So we're just that close. Now the point is, can we establish affirmatively that they are conscious of who it is that controls things, and that they by ritual agree never to tell? She had the head of a beautiful woman. They call that beautiful. The wings of a bird, the body of a lion, representing power, strength, and intelligence. The urn in the pen, guarded by the paw. What by the paw? So the urn is guarded by the paw. Let's go back. Okay, gotcha. It says, Steve, don't worry, you can talk all night. And Simpson back and said, that's not what it says, that's not what it says. Again, there's another picture. This is from their own book. Again, that you can see that there's something in that urn. This is from one of the regional meetings we invaded, and that's where we found it. When it comes, it's coming. We're going to see some real court. And all we're doing is laying down evidence with our people about affirming what we know about what has blocked us from getting to the bottom of what ails us. And so when I started off as a brother, I started off with some dubious theme called naming the names. Everybody ridiculed me. He don't name no name. That ain't nothing. Now we find out that people were sworn never to name the names. So when I started off the journey as naming the names, that put me in direct contradiction to the most powerful blacks who had ever manifested. Guaranteed prosperity and prestige if they just never told what's up. And so that's why when we look back in there and see the circle within a circle, and we know they dealing with the round table, we know for a fact that them big hunkies we've been after, I've been protected by these brothers that we felt they were. Now we must ask them about page 29 of the history book and ask them, is it right or is it wrong? Anyway, that's one of the things we found, and we'll be talking about these sphinxes the other day. We'll be talking about these sphinxes. Another thing I want to draw attention to you to, the word pi. Pi is the word that deals with round table. And that word pi is real significant. So significant that I always drew attention to symbols. You all remember when this symbol was out, and we talked about them Reebok gym shoes. And why would Reebok use the symbol of the British flag to tag their shoes? And we fought at that. We raised questions about that. We harassed each other over it. But Reebok didn't drop the British flag. But now they got another symbol. And every time they use this symbol, they got Shaq saying it. They got a little white woman saying it. They got Emmett Smith saying it. But it's the hunkies who mean it. It says, Emmett Smith's one is this is my ranch. Them is my horses. Dun 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 dun. This is my zone. He's standing in zone. But then something comes on, slams up on the TV and says, but this is my planet. Yeah. Now, you know what pi looks like? You know what the symbol pi looks like? Yes. What does the symbol pi look like? Two things with a bar across. And pi means round table. When we looked up the word pi in the dictionary of symbols, we can turn the lights up. It equated with the word round table. Oh, in fact, let me show y'all this. Anton LaVey. We got to get into Anton LaVey on the second round. We got to talk about Anton LaVey. And we got to talk about this symbol right here. This symbol, the goat of Mendes. You can see it standing around his head. We talk about that symbol right there. The goat of Mendes. And how that article I told you about in the Washington Post tried to say Minister Farrakhan was talking about this in his speech. And what they did was they put a map in there in the Washington Post story. They put a map in there from the Million Man March. In fact, this one was from a pamphlet that they had secured. And in there they tried to draw Washington, D.C. This is where the podium was. This is where the men stood. And they were trying to say that this goat of Mendes symbol is over here, and tried to say that Minister Farrakhan was talking about it in his speech. But in fact, when you lay a map up, like earlier in the same story, they laid this map from the Million Man March study guide. This is printed, you can see the illustration was done by David Cook of the Washington Post. Again, this is November 5th, 1995, Sunday. Story dealing on the mysticism dialogue in the Million Man March speech, one of the few stories in the country that spoke on it. See, it came from Million Man March home study guide. And it shows, and this is an interesting map because this is north is facing up. North is facing up, and that's the way north faces in a map. Here's a map of D.C. D.C. is in the shape of a diamond. And we need to know what it means when George Washington wanted to lay the city out in the form of a diamond. I told you where I live. I live right there on that point. They established in this story, December 21st, 1995, that Benjamin Banneker, at the behest of Thomas Jefferson, laid a stone every 1 mile all around D.C. D.C. is considered 10 by 10. And he laid a stone every 1 mile, and there's 40 stones surrounding D.C. And then when the whites answered, when the minister spoke at the Million Man March, how many did the whites say were there at first? 400,000. What is the sum of 400,000? 4. What is the sum of 4 plus 0? 4. Now, do you think they was all foreign each other? Because D.C. is in the code of the 4 with the 40 stones? And you think they was all talking to each other and didn't nobody know what was going on? We're going to look into this. And the whites went to the point of doing this story to try to say where the goat of Mendes was, but look at the map carefully and notice to make the lie they were trying to make, they had to make north go sideways. No time do you show a map do you make north go sideways, because if you're looking for this symbol, you're not going to find it if you turn the map north sideways. But if you turn north up like it go, you see that symbol is right there all along, and they tried to decoy where it was by distorting which way is up. Now, since they were trying to hide something, what were they trying to hide? Why were they trying to distort something? Look back at that goat of Mendes symbol. Turn it upside down and tell me if you don't see somebody. Who is that? Yoda. Why would Yoda be in the symbol of something that's considered evil? And is there, was Spielberg and George Lucas knowing that when they dabbled on this symbol, that they was dabbling on Yoda? Let's go back. That's right. Yoda, what did Yoda do? You got to go back and watch. Yoda talked to the Jedi about how to deal with the dark side. Better listen back to what he said. And eventually, when they got to the bottom of the old Oedipus thing, he found out that Darth Vader was his daddy. That's deep discussion too. But go back to Anton LaVey in the cover of his book, The Satanic Bible. He's got that same symbol on the cover of his book. He got the same symbol on the back of his head. In fact, he's on the cover of a Look magazine. I'm gonna call my man Brother Hamzo in DC and call out that date and see if we can pull it up. He's on the cover with a chilling picture on Look magazine, which no longer exists. But look at his goat of Mendes. We should be able to turn it upside down and find Yoda too. And it's there. But did Spielberg and Lucas grab a character that's somebody's upside down evil symbol? Nah, probably just a coincidence. This is what the black men could have been. They could have been this. They didn't have to be the white Grecian Sphinx. They could have been this, the Kemetic version, the cherub. And we'll talk about the difference between cherub, cherubs, and cherubim. And remember, we found last time I was here, we found this. Marcus made me go to we spent time going to those newsstands. And I remember I didn't even have much money that day. And lo and behold, on the newsstand was the cover of this story. And it's been very significant in us penetrating the significance of these Grecian sphinxes. This is the, what was this? The July, August 95 issue of Biblical Archaeological Review. And it says in this story that the Greeks were the first philosophers. But the deepness of what they said was that the Greeks are the first philosophers because in Kemet, this symbol was the symbol of a god. It says, in Greece, we knew God not. Therefore, we philosophized about the existence of what we did not know. Now, that's a very subtle confession about something. Now, let's go back. What did it say about the female sphinx? What did it say about the female sphinx? It said the female sphinx was a demon lurking on the side of a road. Right. So we know that that Grecian sphinx is a guardian, a griffin, a gargoyle, but in Kemet, it's a god. The difference, that's why that where did you come from thing we started with, because there is this unique difference about the breakdown of stuff. Anyway, we'll talk a little bit more about that. Last thing I want to share with you is we went to the 9th square of New Haven. New Haven is the city of the 9 squares. As soon as I get up there, I find the headquarters of the Knights of Columbus. The world headquarters of the Knights of Columbus is in the 9th square of New Haven. And when we get up there, I got these brothers with me. It was a whole pack of us. And when we go looking at these symbols, for some reason, whites seem to know we're hunting something. They say, well, you guys look like y'all looking for something. Say, yeah, I'm looking for the beasts. You seen them? So, well, I don't know, but I got a brochure in here, might help you out. And sure enough, the brochure was good stuff. It had little beast prints on it and stuff. But it was talking about the history of the Knights of Columbus and their relationship with New Haven, Connecticut. And I was very intrigued by that. Remember, New Haven, Connecticut is the city of the 9 squares. And that was intriguing because in the videotape, Revolution 103 is something you'd really want to have. have a 5.5-hour lecture I gave at New Haven, Connecticut. It's in that lecture I'm telling them, I say, hey, I went to the Boule Convention, and there they got 9 squares on their thing. And you hear this disruption in the audience. They say, Brother Steve, we are the city of the 9 squares. That's our theme. I said, damn, the Boule wants to be like the tenants of Skull and Bones of Yale. I get up here to Yale, and it's the damn city of the 9 squares. This guy couldn't be. This shit just too connected. So we looked around. Right next door is the real estate company. 9 square. The real estate at the 9th square. The residents of the 9th square. Next to that was the Square 9 real estate company. Everything in the 9th square talked about the 9th square. What's in the 9th square? The 9th square is in the center. Right at the top of this building, in fact. Right at the top of this building. This is an apartment building, and you'll see it on the videotape I have. Right at the top of that building, there are 9 squares carved right in the top of the 9th floor. When I was at the Martin King Chapel at Morehouse, and I'm telling them about the 9 squares, and they got a huge obliques out front with Masonic symbols all over it, and these weird little stones with weird sayings on them. Well, I'm telling them about the 9 stones, and there were 9 stones carved into both sides of the wall of the podium of the King Chapel. Maybe these are all just accidents, just coincidences. Then we look up and go to the 9th square. They said, well, Steve, you got to go over to what they call the green. The green. So what is the green? Said, well, the green is the center of the 9th square. And we think you better go over there and look at something. And this is about the last thing I can share with you tonight. And I know I had it here, right here on top. What was in the 9th square? And you all know I didn't come to do this for you tonight, but I ended up doing this for you tonight. So you have to excuse me while I look for something that I had right on the top. And I need to show you what was in the center of the 9th square. Oh, let's see here. I just had you in my hands. And let's see. Here we go. Oh, not quite. What was in the center of the 9th square? Well, one, we found this church. This church was kind of interesting. They call it Center Church. There's 3 churches right in the center of this green, they call it. And the green, being the center, has these 3 churches in it. And the 3 churches, weirdly, don't have religious symbols in them. I was kind of stunned. In fact, in the bottom of this church, there was a graveyard. There's stones up under there, graves. In fact, last night I showed the place card with the graves in it. In fact, they admitted there are over 1,700 people buried in the bottom of that church in the basement. In fact, here's a card of it. They have a crypt down there, and this is headstones. You can pass that back. Yeah, that's a picture of it, Marcus, but I got a larger one I could show everyone. And I didn't want to use the postcard. I could do it, but I wanted to show everyone all at once. Hold this for me a second. Brother Jamal, was there something you needed to do?
Yes, sir. You want to we're going to pass this around for the good life. We are overtime. We do want to show them support. They don't charge us to use this facility. And like I said before,
the working out of the dough is very important. It's interesting that when the minister went to Africa, one of the words he sent back to me through Brother Eric Muhammad was, tell Steve that the African leaders asked me, could you put a little pressure on the IMF and the World Bank over there for us? And he says, I know a guy who used to always try to do this. I only wish I had helped him more. And the word came back was that they asked for the relief we were trying to give, but there's a certain community of ours who takes money from the Ford Foundation and the Rockefeller Foundation and from other rich whites who will not talk against the IMF or the World Bank. And they, just like those people who swore never to name the names, they can't, when I ask the people who are these people and they don't know, I know they don't know the names of those people. They may want to go get them, but don't know who they are. And that's why we have attacked them the way we have. We're trying to clarify specifically who they are and where they live. But also the fact that those people who pledge to love Africa, I have challenged, and you'll hear it in my material, for dressing African but not fighting for Africa against the whites who are doing harm. One of the things you hear in the Council on Foreign Relations tape is that they decided that they were no longer going to fly whites up out of LA to fly to New York for meetings, so they set up their second headquarters of the CFR, just got set up in LA. Is that right? In LA, and we'll be talking about what it is and where it is as soon as we go up in there. Right. We got to pay them a visit, or visit them a pay, or something. I don't know which one it is.
And what is the purpose of the experiment of white male with the female capability?
I would have to share it with you. The article is dated May 14th, 1987, Chicago Tribune. That's the major newspaper in Chicago. You should write that down so you could draw the article out. And it says, new breed of subhuman slave envisioned. 8-man experiment. That was a title, was 8-man experiments. Subtitle, new breed of subhuman slave envisioned. And so it talked about the fact that they successfully bred a white man with a female chimpanzee. And of course we know they're in population decline, so that level of assistance is important for them. You know, I mean, I ain't trying to be funny, but they down on their nubs. They gonna get with our birds and dogs. They gonna get whatever they need. You see that flick, Beauty and the Beast? Y'all know what they was doing. Yeah, yes, sister, then brother. I know brother had his hand up too. Quickly, because we're overtime.
DC has a diamond just like that there?
Yeah, DC is, I showed you that diamond, them little dots going around.
I want to get clarification on why you were saying that Farrakhan is.
Well, we're going to talk about that, about how do you make a diamond, which is the indestructible stone. How do you make the diamond do something it don't want to do? George Washington set D.C. up as the epitome of the white secret societies in America. All over D.C. is symbolism of secret societies. And the role of George Washington as a Mason is a huge George Washington Masonic temple. Well, D.C. is sort of protected in the sense of that the secret societies consider that a sacred place. A diamond is considered the luminous being, the mystic center, whatever that means. And that it would take a special, it's just like opening up a combination lock. You're not going to open it up because you're pulling it. You're going to open it up because you go so many to the right, so many to the left, so many back to the center, and then the lock pulls. And so there was some combination. And I alluded to the fact, and we're going to talk about this, about the Day of Atonement dealing with the principle of sacrifice, sacrifice dealing with the principle of offering up a goat, a ram, or a bullock, and that those sacrifices would be accepted and passages would be allowed. So we'll discuss that deeper in the incoming days. Yes, brother. I didn't want to disrespect the brother.
About the dime.
Okay. You all right?
But what time on Monday?
Monday at 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock. Yes, sister.
Can I show you something that's in an article that's kind of relating to what you're talking about?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. My expertise has been in the study of the Illuminati and the Knights Templar. And so District Columbia, D.C., which is the Columbia faction, it was set up in Europe when they set this up. But you have to explain, the Pentagon is, if you spin the angles on the Pentagon, you get to go to Mendez.
Right.
Also on the...
Right, I got it up here too, okay. Bob, I got it.
Also the Chrysler Corporation, same thing.
Yes, and those car symbols are very, gotta watch these car logos. Something's up here, huh? Something's up here. I just gotta tell you, that's a whole nother thing we're getting into. There's 3 diamonds and all kind of stuff they got going.
On the monkey thing, when Eisenhower signed the treaty with the extraterrestrials on February 20th, 1954, the Zeta Reticuli Grays, as well as the reptilians, explained that they had produced the European by genetic alterations from the rhesus monkey. They said they did 65 genetic alterations in the rhesus monkey, but we are 2 completely different species. So that's why they can go back to the monkey.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Also, the Sphinx, the female Sphinx, that goes all the way back to Hecate, Greek, which was the Queen of Hell. Okay, so it's all connected.
Okay.
All right,
great. I I say this very clearly. What I produce in this information is what we've all pitched in. This is not about Brother Steve went away and found. Brother Steve lays out a theme. A part of why I'm very important about showing you the few moments I did about the whole cards of some things I'm talking about is that you will go away and find things related to it so that by the time we get here on Monday and by the time we get here on Wednesday, you would have fit those other pieces of the puzzle together, and I'll be more whole for it. The country will be more attentive because of it, and it's what we all put in. I can walk you through each one of these pieces and tell you who it is and where it is it came from around the country as everybody pitched in. Come on up, sister.
This is the Benetton ad.
Oh yeah, notice how they put the horns on. Yeah, they put the horns on the sister. This is these ads are all over the country. Usually they're on those transit shelters, and of course this particular one. When I looked at this, I saw it on the airplane. It was on American Airlines card, and I saw the fact that the white girl smiles and the sister looks. And also, as sister made a point of that, their horns, looks like they put horns on the sister's head and wings on the white girl. And of course, those are the sowing of the seeds of inferiority in our children. This is what it is that makes us fight. When they were wrestling me about messing with Columbus Day, those seeds that are sown, even these things that go on when parents aren't there to protect their children, that go unmolested into the child's brain. And as strong as my little daughter is, my aunt, that does not mean she won't walk out that house and get with them other children at that even African school and come home and ask about why her dolls ain't got some blonde in it and stuff like that. Because they feel at odds with other children whose parents are not protecting them against the values of white supremacy, and so they believe there's something wrong with them because their parents have taught them to resist. And so we have to make the way safe for the children. It's for the children that we must do this. And I'm gonna have to. And this is an interesting copy of the New Yorker.
Star in the corner.
Yeah, this is an interesting copy of the New Yorker. Yeah, that's good. Look at that one. Well, the important thing about this issue is that this issue is about black people. Okay, watch this. Who owns the New Yorker? See, hold it, stop now, stop. You cannot make vague accusations like the word Jews. When I beat them little 500 white students sitting there at my feet ready to accuse me of something, when I beat them with the names of their daddies, what made them unable to respond against me was that I named them specifically. Now, if I stood there and said, who owns the magazines is Jews, somebody get paid more than somebody else. Somebody name on the 10K form. Now, come on, Africans, who own the New Yorker? Murdoch. Thank you, Rupert Murdoch. Thank you, Baba. Thank you very much. And see, since I was in a fight with Murdoch in New York, so you're right. That's right, sister. Get it to him. That's right. Both bowls to him. That's right. Rupert Murdoch, stanky ass. That's right. And another thing too, don't get caught accusing people who don't act religious with religious affiliation. You look up and see somebody acting devilish and say that's a Jew. A Jew is a religious affiliation. When they're acting devilish, you don't tab religion on them. You call them more, find out their name, find out more specifically about what that is. But we cannot find who we're after with dubious titles called the man.
Yeah, so very.
You know, we need little brother. You know, the first thing the hunky say when he pull you over is, let me see you. All right, so why he always go for the name and we always go for the vague?
Name the name.
So you're right. But we got our paw over the urn trying to guard the names of Greek citizens and shit.
Some of them.
Yeah, yes. Somebody. All right, but come on back there. That's my friend back there. What's up, my man? You usually over there in that doorway. I appreciate you. It's good to see you again.
I was wondering about if you see any meaning in the two killings that we had recently, Michael Taylor, KPFK, and the lady that was shot, you know, the lawyer, the lawyer and the teacher that was shot a few weeks ago.
I wasn't here a couple of weeks ago, so I'm unfamiliar with the lawyer, teacher case that you were talking about.
Michael Taylor of KPFK.
I just read, brother briefed me yesterday when he came by the hotel, the brothers from Pasadena, about the article in yesterday's LA Times, and giving me a little history, and I noticed very specifically the comment by brother Kwaku as the people in the LA Times tried to conclude that why he was killed had nothing to do with his activities. We saw real clearly that Kwaku said, I don't know that to be true yet. Let me wait until I check the evidence before I conclude. And that's another thing that reminded me of the Ron Brown thing, where they said, well, Ron Brown's plane has gone down, but we know it wasn't foul play. And they said, well, tell us something about the crash. They said, well, we don't know anything about it. But the one thing they did know was that they didn't do what they did. Another thing. I don't want you to forget this. I don't want you to forget this. Strategy. When something happens, you do not make an assumption or give value to the source. You snatch everything. I put one tape player on one station, the VCR on another station, another tape player on the all news radio station. I'm gathering everything that's going down. I'm not trying to pick what I saw. Even if you tape it 5 times, study it carefully, because the 5th time might be slightly slicker, shorter, slightly deviated than the 3rd time or the 1st time. Don't you draw an opinion when you're in the information gathering stage. The reason we had such great weight in the assassination attempt on Brother Khalid was that we did not form an opinion. We collected all we could. The reason we had such great weight on the Harold Washington situation was we did not draw an opinion about what we found. We collected everything we found, and then in time we studied for leads, deviations, found questions that we sought answers for. And so same with the Ron Brown. If you taped it from the beginning, you will hear the Army, the military, I should say military, say this: the plane has gone down over the water, and the wreckage is seen, and bodies have been viewed in the water. Now, when you say I saw it, don't mean you heard it fall in the water. Don't mean you say you saw it. You not only saw it, but you saw wreckage and you saw bodies. And that's what the whole thing was. I remember somebody turned to me and said, well, he probably floating around there, sitting on a box, waiting for somebody to come rescue him. You know, somebody said, well, he's probably still alive. They saw some bodies. They didn't say whether those were live bodies or dead bodies. But the key thing was that the little white woman that they found alive probably would still be living if they didn't waste 4 hours fucking with that water. Going someplace where nothing was at. Giving whatever they were doing time to keep going. I don't quite understand it, but I mentioned even earlier this morning that the plane went exactly opposite of the way it should have went. And in Africa, laser technology, the attack on the instruments of airplanes in Africa have been one of the soundest techniques they have used to neutralize African leadership in the vulnerability of airplanes. We are vulnerable on airplanes, but we know we must take them. And in line with that, they have been very, very powerful. Michelle in Mozambique, and of course Mickey Leland. And you know Ron Brown was in the secret society. Mickey Leland was in the same secret society. Martin King and Whitney Young, and I always make this point, and I re-emphasized it on the radio this morning. Every time one of these secret society members become international, it appears as if somehow they get set down. And Whitney Young died in Africa. Martin King died attacking the military-industrial complex. He could have fought for civil rights all day. He had more grants than any black man in America. But as soon as he went to fuck with the war, then the whites stepped against him. And even if you look at the Eye on the Prize dealing with Martin King, you'll see the other preachers warn him about taking that extra step, the step that they're never to take. Whitney Young in Africa trying to make a move. Jesse Jackson, he's at both places. He's in Africa with Whitney Young dying. He's with Martin King dying in Memphis. I don't understand that either, but he wasn't too. When Harold Washington died, he did some crazy things in Chicago. He was on a ship in the Persian Gulf, and he announced he was going to come home and make another man mayor. Only problem was the people hadn't had the meeting where they decided who that would be. He said who that would be from the Persian Gulf. He was coming home to make Tim Evans the mayor. And of course, we ended up having Mayor Daley as the mayor, and that's a whole nother thing. Anyway, yes, sister.
Rush Limbaugh, on his thing, did you see, he had the funeral of Rob Brown, he had the president. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see. I don't tend to watch him. Sometimes he's on late night in some of these cities. I get in from the lecture, I turn on the hotel thing, I watch a minute or two. He really got a Steve Coakley lecture going. He's showing tapes and little stories and stuff, you know. I wish I had all them TV stations he had to do what I do like he do for them. Yeah.
So what's really good about that is what he does, he says he will show this tape every night. What he has on the funeral of Rob Brown, he has the president laughing and talking with somebody, and then as soon as the president sees the cameras, he's crying and he's wiping his eyes.
Yeah, that Clinton, he can do some acting and shit now. We know Clinton's an actor. There's no doubt about that. No doubt about that. Sister needs a ride home to which area?
Crenshaw and Manchester.
Crenshaw and Manchester. Check.
I can help the sister. I can help.
All right. If sister agrees, then we'll make sure. If there's problems, we'll holler out.
Don't leave.
Yeah, bro.
You get one question and a couple comments. Can I get that?
Well, let's start with the question and we'll make some judgment then.
Can someone confirm or deny Hillary Rodham Clinton was on that airplane just before Ron Blanc and she just got off?
Correct. And to add to that, Secretary of Defense William Perry had been on the plane right before her. Check. Correct.
Same plane. Kind of odd that you have the First Lady of the United States, President of the United States, and they won't have a black box on that military plane.
Probably felt about the same about her as they do about Ron Brown. No, I'm telling you, y'all know we talked about it. They got Clinton's ass. There's a tape up here called Slow Burn in the Climate of Rapid Change. Talking about how when you become real big in the structure of the world tends to sometimes keep you on a percolated pot ready to destroy you at any minute. It's like the pot of water you keep that's not percolating on the stove, but just hot enough for you to make some coffee when you need some hot water, because the water's already hot. And so they percolate people, and that slow burn in the climate of rapid change is an interesting analysis on the vulnerability of Minister Farrakhan, Newt Gingrich, and Bill Clinton, and how the fates of those three, though not similar, are somehow linked together.
Also, I wanted to state that if anyone in here wants to take a good look at Grecian Sphinx, you go down to downtown Los Angeles Library. They got Grecian Sphinx They close that place around about 8 o'clock. I'd like to see what's going on behind those closed doors. It's got nothing but
Yeah, I think.
Number 15, last night I looked into the dictionary, they call that number the cardinal, one of the cardinal numbers, because it's the addition of 10, which is finality, completion, and 5, that pentagram.
And another person would say that the 10 equals yod and the 5 equals hand. And there's something in there. And I'm telling you, I'm not into numerology, but I've been grabbing every book on numerology I can and beginning to study it, because now I'm walking across language. If you hear the minister talking out numbers and people and societies again, you got to watch into it. Also, the transliteration of words. We need to know how to transliterate words, and I've got more dictionary of symbols to work with, and why that's important for all of us. Brothers, anything you want to say? Anything we can do? Anything you want to talk about? Come on up here, African. We appreciate you coming out tonight.
Well, excuse me. I guess what I'm essentially doing, I think I'm in an unusual situation, a situation that I certainly didn't plan to be. And my mother told me that in her case, the Lord Jesus Christ, in her case, or Jesus Christ, I've been told lately by, because I am studying the Quran some, that the Lord is not a word I should be using when I mention Jesus Christ. But in any event, that I'm in a situation, I've been placed in a situation, and that you don't always end up doing in your life what you plan to do. Sometimes you're called to do things. At this point, I'm trying to find I think through my experiences, basically what I am able to talk on, and I think I've gotten some first-hand knowledge on, is our place, what's happening to us in this legal system, and what the media is essentially doing to us. And I'm trying to find a way to mobilize and take advantage of this unusual situation that if I'm anything, I am an attraction at this point. There's something about this perceived infamy. I just got invited to go and speak to Oxford, of all places, in England. So I'm going there next week to speak in Oxford, and I'm trying to get my thesis together, or at least get it organized, so I'll be able to best communicate the things that I think I need to communicate, and I think that quite possibly all of this obviously means something, this thing that I've gone through. I focus on the media. I see what the media has been have done to me. Obviously, I see what it's done to everyone. I've paid a lot of attention to Marlon Brando a few weeks ago, and the things that Marlon Brando, that happened with Marlon Brando, and I don't understand why nobody tried to intellectualize exactly what he was saying there. They were able, the Jewish community was able to focus on shutting him up. In 3 days, they had the man literally on his knees apologizing. Yet at the same time, we had some individuals, one a black man, who was able to make, to me, what was even more damaging remarks, racial remarks, when they talked about the jury in my case, that the minute that they saw this group of people, they knew they couldn't get a verdict. I think about my sister who's sitting right here. I think about my mother, and I think about that jury, because I saw a bunch of my sisters and mothers on that jury, and I was thinking, how could these people get away with saying that? I thought that was a slap in the face to every black person in America, that they were saying because they're black that they can't make an informed decision, that they would let, if the evidence showed, a murderer go free. And I wondered why in the community I didn't hear, hey man, we want an apology. Right. And I realized that's because, well, in some areas we were getting that, and I realized that I don't know, some way we haven't been able to mobilize like the Jewish community has mobilized. I see a commercial, you see it, a movie started today called The Great White Hype. Yeah. And there's a line that he says that when I was in the theater and I saw it, and I was saying that, you know, black unity was like jumbo shrimp, you know, and I mean, and that has stuck with me. And I say it's supposed to be funny, but it isn't funny. It's just not something that we should be laughing at. And so what I'm trying to do, and I'm spending some time with my brothers over here, Minister Tony. Where is Mohammed? Did Mohammed come back? Abedin, who has really been helping me. Mabel over here, pardon me? Yes. Yeah, who have I've been meeting with, trying to find a way to mobilize this, try to find a way, what I call, there's a thing I call in the legal system. When I was down in county jail, sometimes your eyes are open. I think what I've done is something that, what my life has done, I should say, is something that's happened with a lot of black men in America. I grew up in the projects. You know, no one has to tell me you act black. Hey, I grew up in the projects. I know about being black. I am black. Most of the causes, once I started getting over at the end of the 60s, when after the riots here and everywhere, when Mr. Johnson, the president, said he had a directive to corporate America, we have to do something, we have to hire more blacks. Hey, OJ was the man. They hired me to be the first major spokesman for corporate America. And what I did was, over the years, I've been involved in the community financially. But what we tend to do is try, you were talking about it with these groups, the Brule, you tend to find yourself protecting your place in society. So what I thought is I can send money to the links. I can send money to my neighborhood. And you know, I was involved. But you tend to think that you're immune to some things. You know what's happening out there is still happening, but you're hoping it change, and you're really fooling yourself, saying that everything's changed. Until I got down there to CJ, with the, county jail, which I now call CGPJ, county colored people jail, because there's all blacks and browns that I saw down there. And one of the things that I want to focus on is what I like to call selective prosecution. That we have a situation here where I notice that the statistics of who commit crimes in this country is pretty indicative to what our population is. But who they decide to prosecute, it's totally out of whack, because they're prosecuting us and the Hispanics. They're not prosecuting the whites. And those are the areas that I'm trying to focus on. The media, how the media has treated us, I mean, this unity thing, I just don't know how to go about it doing it. I didn't know. For the last 3 or 4 months, I've been formulating a lot of thoughts, getting a lot of information. One of the reasons I'm here to listen to Brother Copeland is try to get some ideas that I could take over to Oxford with me, but I didn't know a way to my forum, or my venue, or my microphone here in this country. What am I going to do? Who am I going to mobilize? I can talk now, people listen, but they will let me go on these white shows. They'll let me go on I'm trying to think of, but besides, well, not BET, I'm talking about these Larry King is the name. They'll let me go on Larry King. They'll let me go on Rollo if I talk about Bruno Magli shoes and gloves. Right. They don't want to hear the fact that, hey, you had a level. I can get very technical here, but they don't want it. They don't want me when I question why in America we have a system of justice. When the Menendez's case came down the first time, you had 6 people on both of those jury, 12 people that voted for acquittal for those boys. 12 people, even though they went outside to reload, to come in, to finish their mother off. Didn't one person in the news say that that was a racist decision, that was racially motivated? But they're able to say that about my jury, and they're able to get away with it because we haven't been able to, evidently, we haven't been able to mobilize and put pressure on them. I believe that we have a Constitution in this United States that I'm noticing applies to everybody. I sat there and watched this boy, Ted Kennedy, stand in moral judgment of Clarence Thomas. And I was saying, how can that happen? But this is America. He was convicted of nothing. I sat there and watched this guy, John Wayne Bobbitt, who a court decided his wife was justified in cutting his penis off. This man can go out, he can speak anywhere he wants to speak, he can make tapes, and they will not even let me talk. I can't even buy advertising for my video. So I'm in the community. I'm trying to hang around people that I think can better educate me to the things. I think I have a unique opportunity here, and I'd like to be able to take advantage of it, and I'd like to not possibly once again let you down. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm trying to formulate a lot of things.
Yeah, we got the information. Again, I appreciate all of you. Let me greet my brother Tony Muhammad. This is my first chance to get to meet the brother. My pleasure, Baba. Sure, you're right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Has grown a lot since I first came to LA. When I first came, they were arguing over paying Jamal about doing his videos. He's been fighting for what's his for a long time, and I really appreciate him having stuck with keeping the community forum together and to make the Talking Drum. And again, I appreciate the Good Life for hosting the Talking Drum, but also for the fact that Jamal, as I've got to talk with him, we did the radio earlier this morning. We were together late last night and sat together for breakfast this morning. Is that he's taken a lot of attack. And as a brother, you can accept a lot of attack, and many times you can say, you know, you don't feel it. But I shouldn't have to hear some of the things that I hear about what the brother has to go through to try to do the little things he does to protect African people, and some of the things that are going around should not be. So we'll be talking more about that. Lately, some things have broken down and must be rebuilt. And we're going to be, you know, brothers, straight. Sometimes we got to go straight to these things. So there's some straight things we must talk about. I'll see you again here Monday and Wednesday. There'll be something bigger towards next weekend. I haven't figured out where and what, but I want to do something big maybe next Saturday. But of course, you'll hear it all off of the radio on Monday. You'll know where we go from there. 4:30 a.m. Monday. We're not finished yet. Brother Jamal wants to give away something.
Right. We're going to close out at this point. I want to give Brother OJ a copy of the program Ethnic Tokens. Now, that will offer you an explanation as to why the media has attacked you and other black men the way they have, and where this attack really stems from. I wish I could have gave a copy. I wish I could have gave Marlon Brando a copy after he said that about Larry King, because there's some goodies in there that if he had that, he would never even had them in his house to apologize to. Let alone they wanted to track him down to the Museum of Tolerance and have him apologize there on international television. I'm glad he didn't do that. But there's some very interesting things in there. I suggest you may want to watch it alone. At first, it could scare the friends around you. It is very hot. But this government has a plan for us, and they use the media to steer us into acceptable outlet areas. Entertainment, athletics, peaceful black folks with just a family. That's the kind of black folks they want. And they just steer us in those areas, and this comes from a government-sponsored program. We've gained access to the documents through the Freedom of Information Act. It's in the tape that you'll be seeing, and we may have a few copies in the back for anyone else that has never seen the program. We'll be doing a version of that here on the 31st, and I think I'll be at Crescent Bookstore sometime this month, and we'll be doing the full presentation there. It's called Ethnic Tokens, Death of the African World Image. With that, brothers and sisters, we've been here way over time, and I know that Sister Aoife is going to probably say, well, next Friday, I don't know. But I want to implore all of you to come back, support The Good Life on days when we don't have these programs. Brother Coakley has tapes that will offer you a more